Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome back to some more What If Aviation Madness. Here we have my recently completed, I only just finished it, Marmatian Arab Air Force What If MiG-29 SMT by Zvezda. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the plane and then I'm going to make some observations in consultation with a chapter in the Book of Armaments. So here are my thoughts for today. Well, firstly, the Zvezda kit is a lovely little kit. It builds extremely well. I've had this sat on my workbench for a few weeks while I lost the mojo and went and did older aircraft, but we're back in the modern period. Marmatian is of course one of my modern what if states. It is the Russian allies, post-Soviet successor state allies, and this is one of their new creations. Now unfortunately one of my missiles, while I've been turning the plane around, is falling off, so I'll remove that. So this is the Zvezda kit. The Zvezda kit builds extremely nicely. I airbrushed the underside of the aircraft and stuck it on a stand because I'm doing mine in flying condition. There's a few tiny bits I need to touch up, but overall no problems with the build at all. Tiny bit of putty where the landing bay doors are there, but otherwise it builds extremely nicely, and it's a credit to Zvezda that they are producing such fine kits. I've done some custom markings with my own decals. Hopefully, according to Google Translate, this does say Marmatian, and Marmatians have this sort of star with a weird underneath bit. This is aircraft 02 from a new purchase batch that they're making to rival the Oilem, who are the NATO sponsored adversaries F-16 purchases. I've done it with an R-27 infrared missile on one pylon, an R-27 radar missile on the other, and then 4 R-73 missiles. Now what I want to talk about is the MiG-29 versus the F-16, that perennial debate. Now I've consulted the Book of Armaments, and what's really interesting from building the Zvezda kit is that you get an air-to-air mix, and you get some weapons which would not look out of place in the late 1980s. And this, I think, is a major issue with the MiG-29 SMT overall. It's marketed as a multi-role fighter, and it does have the expanded hump for better avionics, and it does have the large centerline fuel tank, which converts the aircraft from a very short range aircraft to something fairly decent. It's also got a refueling probe there, which is very important. Now in the kit you get one of these precision guided missiles. You get a CAB 500 bomb, electro-optical bomb. You get some of these unguided bombs. You get an S-80 rocket pod, an S-13 rocket pod, and 2 S-24 unguided rockets. You also get the aforementioned R-27 missiles. You get some R-60 missiles. The R-77 isn't from the Hasegawa kit, and this is just one of the spares from the Zvezda kit. Now all of these precision guided weapons here, you also get KH-31s, which I won't cover because they're anti-radiation missiles, but these missiles and bombs are all 1980s to 1970s standards. So let's take the issues with this. Well, all of these require you to get within the range of enemy integrated air defense systems, placing your aircraft in a vulnerable position. Now if we consult the Book of Armaments, we find a big difference between the theory and practice of the F-16 and the MiG-29, even in SMT guys. So the F-16 has 11 hard points where you can hang stuff off. It also has guidance pods, so you have the lightning pod, where you have the sniper pod, various other options available for world air forces. But these give you precision, long-range observation, and then you've got 11 hard points to hang weapons off. And I think the F-16 is an integrated weapons delivery package. If we have a look at the MiG-29, you don't get a single guidance pod, and you get 6 hard points because you have to use the centre line for fuel, otherwise it won't go very far. Now the F-16, you do have tanks which you hang on it, and the F-16 will often have a fuel tank hung on positions here and here inboard of the wings, and it will also often in American service have a jamming pod, an AN/ANQ 184 or an AN/ANQ 131 hung underneath this pod. Some will have the harm targeting system here, and others will have the sniper pod here, but that still allows you sufficient provision to carry lots of weapons, and it can carry a BRU 61 or 57 smart bomb adapter here, giving you 2 extra stations, and you tend to find it's got an AIM-9X and an AIM-120 missile on the wings outboard. So you've got a lot of carrying ability on this aircraft. Interestingly, you've got no precision targeting system on the MiG-29 SMT, which I think is quite a deficiency because it shows a real gap in theory between the Americans and NATO standards, where you've got great observation, precision targeting systems, and if you like the Russian ones, where you're still reliant on these old 1980s and 1990s weapons. So interestingly, there's not a single guided glide weapon here. So that forces you into 2 things. So that forces you either into the zone of integrated air defence. So we put the integrated air defence zone there. So you either have to fly in and drop your bomb and they're going to be firing at you, or you have to go extreme low level, go into a loft, launch your weapons unguided and hope that you hit the target. Now I'm not sure whether it's because the Russians failed to develop in this area and have only recently started to do so by fitting some of these weapons with glide wings. So if we take these weapons here, and you can see in Ukraine the Russians have finally fitted glide wing kits to them, and that allows you to drop from further away outside the integrated air defence zone and stay safe. But a real theoretical and practical difference. So we'll go back to the kit. Again, a lovely kit. I'll stick that missile on. Highly recommend the Zvezda kit, but just bear in mind it is theoretically and practically on a different level to Western fighters.